Uh, a very good morning to one and all present here. Thank you all for coming. This is a very informal gathering of young people who are anxious about the future of the Theosophical Society. I have Mr. Maithreya here, who is one of the candidates who has been nominated for the post of president. The other candidate is Mr. Tim Boyd. We are unable to have such a discussion with Mr. Tim Boyd because he is presently at the United States of America. Now, we have a few questions regarding the future of the Theosophical Society, which is why we are all gathered here. I would request all of you to ask relevant and brief questions. With the permission of the group, if I may ask the first question.
Yeah, please.
We all know that you come from Theosophical family. If I'm not wrong, it is the oldest Theosophical family in the society. How has this influenced you?
My family has been in the Theosophical Society from 1882, and maybe it is a coincidence that we are the oldest family. But I must tell you that Theosophy does not necessarily come because you belong to the Theosophical family. I know that some of you are from very old Theosophical families, but it is true that we must put in our efforts. I cannot take credit saying, oh, I am a fifth generation member, we've been in it for 6 generations. It is true that I was brought into it not the way that some of you have come. You have been searching as young people. You're concerned about what is happening in the world. And that's why you're here on a Sunday morning instead of sleeping late or going for some other form of entertainment. It's very important for us to understand that this cannot be because you are born, that that's a good fortune. It can be called karmic, but you have to put in your own efforts. Suppose you are the son of a carpenter. Do you automatically learn how to make tables and chairs? If you are the son of an electrician or a plumber, you cannot learn the trade unless your father teaches you. I had the good fortune of the family imparting certain values. In that sense, it's useful. So therefore, what is the lesson you can learn? Bring your children to an understanding of Theosophy or any form of philosophy which leads to a right way of living. The Theosophical Society never claims that it's the only organization. We do not say that our teachers are the only teachers. We in fact invite a comparative study. So to answer Nina's question again, yes, I am fortunate, and yet I cannot take credit for it. It's a karmic occurrence, and I've had some good sense, fortunately, which is from my karma, that I have been able to use this background, as some of you have. I see some of you who are from Theosophical families.
Thank you.
Yes, Vishnu.
Why should one join Theosophical Society? What does it offer to someone who seeks spiritual life?
Vishnu has asked, why should you join the Theosophical Society? The answer is yes, and in a way, no, you don't need to. The Theosophical Society is an organization which was primarily to bring together truths from various religions, to show us that even though we may belong to different faiths, we are not different from each other as human beings. And even though so much has been said, there is a lot more to understand. There is a lot more to investigate. And that's why our motto, there is no religion higher than truth, means that every day you as a person realize a little bit more of the truth, a little bit more of what each great teacher has said. So that is one reason why the theosophical literature is useful. It's also accessible to non-members. It's not only for members. The second is universal brotherhood. Today you see terrorism, you see communal strife, you see all forms of casteism and racism. If you are a theosophist, this does not work. You cannot be one of those and also be a theosophist. You can't be a racist and a theosophist. You cannot be a casteist and a theosophist. You understand? You cannot be a fundamentalist and a theosophist. So you learn that even if you are very angry with somebody, you should learn that that anger should not be taken to extremes where you start attacking the other person. So we stand for brotherhood, sisterhood, humanhood, whatever you choose to call it. Because sometimes when we say brotherhood, it seems to exclude women. It is not meant to be so. Okay? And Satyan Nasti Paro Dharmaha, which is the motto of the Theosophical Society, has been translated as there is no religion higher than truth. But the word dharma can be law, can be charity, can be duty. So it can be any of these things, but at all times it should be true. Okay? If you say, you had a few days ago, many couples were going out to celebrate Valentine's Day. So if you say I love you and you say, no, it's just convenient to be together in your mind, and you say that outside, you're being a hypocrite. You're not a theosophist. Okay? You see somebody and you say, oh, it's so nice to meet you. Then you think, lousy character, I don't know why I have to bump into him. You're not a theosophist. Please remember that every moment of your life, the Theosophical Society teaches you to think in a different way. I don't know whether I have answered your question, but this is why. And you can join any other organization. There are beautiful organizations in the world, and if they give the same message, we as Theosophists would encourage you to join them. Yeah, Vishnu? Yes.
My question is relevant to your first answer to Nina's question. Some of us are from Theosophical Society, Theosophy background. And do you think we should follow the family tradition? Like for myself, my family goes back to my great-grandfather being part of the society. Or do we question, do we blindly follow just because we are from the family, or do we have to put in extra effort because we have been tagged as, coming from the family? So, what?
It's interesting that Divyanand is asking this question, because in the extended family, they have had many eminent theosophists, and his family is perhaps one of the oldest families as well. And yet, there's this whole thing that, yes, it is right that children of theosophists should become theosophists, members. But the Buddha has said that we should question everything, not with a skeptical, cynical mind, but with an inquiring mind. A mind that says, why am I doing this? If you want to go into a shop and it says 50% discount, you have to ask yourself, why am I buying? Is it because there is a discount, or is it because I need what I am buying? Why am I joining the Theosophical Society? Is it because I would like to know more about comparative study, religion, philosophy and science? Is it because I want to be more compassionate? Is it because I want to go inside and study the powers that are latent within me, because today science speaks about all this? If so, this is a like-minded group. It's a group of people who are thinking on the same lines. Perhaps people who are nice and good because they have these values, not only because my family was with it. Of course, I trust my family a lot, maybe the most, because I know if my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, my great-grand-uncle, my grandfather, my parents, my wife, my children, if everybody is in it, I trust their judgment too. And they trust my judgment in being a part of the Theosophical Society. So the family is a good reference point, but a reference point that we need to ask why. Sometimes your spouse, you're all getting married, and I know that sometimes the wife or the husband is already there, and the other one thinks, what is this Theosophical Society? Why should I get involved? Are they trying to convert me into some practice that my eventual would-be in-laws are involved in? No, you should never allow for that. Never force, canvas, never try to coerce people into joining the society. Never do that. We are not looking at a market share of the spiritual market. We are not. We don't have prescriptions which say, oh, if you do this, I will give you nirvana, moksha. No. You do it for its own sake, truth for its own sake. And for people who accept that, then you show them an option. Let them come and see your meetings. Is it sensible? Why do young people gather on Sundays? They could very well be entertaining themselves. Why is it we don't impose any norms in terms of daily practices? We do not say you wake up and look in a particular direction and chant something. For example, there's nothing wrong in doing it, but we do not say it. You understand? There are groups which say it and there are people who require it. Here it says whether you pray to the west or the east, to the north or the south, you are still a theosophist, as long as you are searching for truth. Whether you call your God something or something else does not matter. Ishwar, Allah, God, different names. Okay, so you have to question, why did my family get into it? My great-grandfather must have been a sensible person. He got into it because he must have asked the same questions as a young person. And that's why the youth are important. Because if he had asked this as an old man, he had asked these questions as a teenager in the case of my great-grandfather. He and his elder brother asked these questions as teenagers. Why should we follow a religion? Should we convert? These were the questions they asked. And these were serious questions in their time. Today, interreligious, intercaste, interlinguistic weddings and marriages are common. But in their time, it was very difficult that they asked these questions. So you have to ask this question. And every day you have to ask this question, why am I in the Theosophical Society? Why am I in this profession?
Irrespective of the family background.
Exactly, irrespective of the family background. The family background helps, but it's not a caste system. It's not a religion. I'm born a Brahmin. So therefore for life I'm branded as a Brahmin. No. If you decide tomorrow that you would like to leave the Theosophical Society, you should even ask the question, why am I leaving? If you want to continue, you should ask the question, why am I continuing? That's how you're mindful and you take the right decisions at all times. Yeah, Charanya has a question.
How's Theosophy relevant to a world that is becoming more competitive and more materialistic? It's becoming more competitive and materialist. Yeah, materialist.
You're right. The cake is too small, and I see that most of you are Indians, but it's also the case, or I think all of you Indians except one gentleman who is technically not an Indian, also of Indian origin. I think it's very important for us to look inwards. When you are driving a car or a motorbike, what do you look at and drive? Do you look at the windscreen in front or the rear view mirror all the time? What do you do? If you are very competitive, you are a person who is always looking at the rear view mirror to try to see, to try to find out if somebody is overtaking you. Otherwise, you are looking straight. You are looking at your speedometer. You have a destination and you have a speed limit. But you're not looking to find out, oh, is she overtaking me? Is he overtaking me? Those are people who eventually meet with accidents, because they are not looking at what is the road ahead of them, but rather at the rear view mirrors. I think it's important for us to look at the road ahead of us to try and find out why we are and where we are going. And if that is a materialistic path, as you mentioned the word, then we should ask, I'm going all right, I'm being very competitive, and what is it going to take me to? I'm not for a moment advocating that we should be lazy people, that we should not study, that we should not get a decent job. It's not all that. I think all of us are working towards that. We need to look at our own lives, our own families. But at the same time, that's not everything in life. Human relationships are not dependent on how much you earn or what car you drive. If your husband or your wife says, oh, you don't own a premium car, so I don't love you, then I think it's time you start having a serious discussion on this matter. Or if they say, oh, the neighbor has such a big house, you are in a small apartment. If you loved me, you should have got something bigger. If nowadays it can be said both ways, because women are also earning, but that's not very good. That's materialistic. Or you see something for which you will do anything to get it, just because it creates status, it puts you one up on somebody else. All these things we need to look at. All of us have gone through this and are still going through it. I'm not saying that somebody might ask, you are contesting an election, is it not competitive? Yes and no. It is a competition, but I think I enjoy a good relationship with the other person who is competing with me. You understand? An excellent relationship. So what happens is, there is no backbiting. There is no party spirit, as all that we should not have. And therefore, it is not a materialistic pursuit for a position. Even positions, I want to be the managing director of a company. I want to be the head of my department. He was made, but I was not made. You understand? These are not questions which are important. Are you happy with your life? Have you done a good deed for the day? Have you seen somebody suffering and just left him? Because sometimes not acting, this thing about karma comes up very often. And people say, oh, not doing anything is the best thing. It's not so. There is a context. There is a context. You see somebody lying, and I remember I was going for a lodge meeting where I was a speaker, but there was a man lying on the road, bleeding. So there was this debate. If I go late, I'm going late for a lodge meeting, people are waiting. At that time, you can be very materialistic about Theosophical Society. I'm giving you unconventional, shall we say, perceptions of materialism. I said, no, I think it's important for us to see this guy, inform the police so that he'll be taken to hospital, and then carry on. The worst that's going to happen is the meeting will begin 15 minutes late. We don't normally do that, but these are abnormal circumstances. You understand? So materialism is also connected very intensely with self-centeredness and selfishness. Because you think you are important and you should have everything and you should compete with your brother and sister. I'm saying this because we consider each other as brothers, sisters. I should have more than him. You understand? And so I become materialistic. It is not wrong to have some material possessions. It is not wrong to have a nice car. It is not wrong to live in a nice house. Don't feel guilty. But don't feel guilty if you don't have something. That is the beginning of materialism.
Well, this discussion is very inspiring and bringing clarity. So I thought of another question. Do you think the activities related to the spread of theosophy and the study development will happen automatically, or do we have to make specific plans and efforts according to those as members of the Theosophical Society?
There are different levels. There are people who want to study theosophy. There are other people who are not inclined towards study. And there are people who want to meditate. I have looked at it as different, shall we say, aspects, in another sense, different levels of understanding. Now, if I have understood your question correctly, you are asking, do we need to study fundamentally, to put in efforts, to learn? Yes. But when we are talking about people coming into the society, some of us are meeting for the first time, maybe one or two persons. If I say, here is a book, please start studying, it's about karma and nirvana, that's the best way of turning people away. I think it's very important for us to understand that there are also people who are interested in activities. You say the whole beach is very dirty, so let us go there and do some work, and after that let us sit and talk as to why are people spoiling the environment by throwing bottles, plastic bottles, papers, and then from there the talk moves about how you become aware, and the awareness also takes you to other cases besides the environment. See how we treat animals, how we treat other human beings, and then slowly you talk about, this happened to me, that happened to you, as you're having coffee, tea, and then you say, yes, there is something interesting on this. Then the other person asks you, and then study becomes important. If it is imposed, if I tell you, you must sit like this and meditate, from tomorrow nobody will come. This Maithreya is calling us, so let's turn in the other direction and run. But freedom of choice, freedom to sit and ask, freedom to practice what you want, and freedom to study what you want, important. But if somebody says, I don't understand what this subject is, what is consciousness, what is karma, what is moksha or nirvana, what is yoga, is it just exercises, or what are the 8 steps of Ashtanga yoga? If people ask you, and if people from another country perhaps ask you, then, or people who don't belong to the Theosophical Society ask you, then you should be able to say, yes, I have studied something. I always tell people, even if you don't study too much, learn the basics of what is common in all the religions. What do people of the Hebrew faith think? What do people of the Islamic faith think? There's something in them. And each teacher has something which the Theosophical Society has put together. So if you study a theosophical text, invariably you will find references of people like Madam H.P. Blavatsky, Colonel H.S. Alcott, Dr. Annie Besant, Bishop Leadbeater, and later Theosophists too, who have written, and they have written also about what were contemporary problems then, which are also problems now, like Damodar Mavlankar and Swami Subbarao were young people like you. And, for example, Damodar wrote about I think the castes in India. He gave up caste. Why did he do that? Unless you read, you will not know. You read the autobiography of Annie Besant, you will know why she did something, because she puts it down very clearly. Therefore, reading is important. And later on, you read, maybe many of you are familiar with At the Feet of the Master. Discrimination, desirelessness, good conduct, love. Very fundamental, but very difficult, not easy. So, after this, what? After that, what? It will take you to the Isis Unveiled and the Secret Doctrine. But before that, maybe you should study the Key to Theosophy. To find out what H.P. Blavatsky has said, she said it as questions and answers. It's very interesting. Okay. Now, I would also tell you, the internet is very good, but be careful, because there's a lot of junk on the internet. So, you need a lot of viveka, discrimination when you refer to things on the internet. People read the internet and come and say, oh, are you in sympathy with this? Do you think this way? No, it's not true. But study is important to learn, and even to question, why is that author saying that? After all, even, for example, you study music, and there is a music critic who writes in the newspaper. Unless you keep on reading what different critics say about the style of a musician, you will not be able to only look at things from your point of view, because that's another window. She thinks differently, she thinks differently, you think differently, and each of you is a music critic. And then you say, oh yeah, I didn't notice this fellow has noticed this, I didn't notice that, and I think he's right, I'm not really correct on this. Then you come to a more holistic, and also you must ask, I don't agree with this, I agree with this, these are things that we need to do. So there is always studying, but not too much, and then contemplating on what you have studied. Contemplate on everything that you study in class, in life in general. You understand? Suppose somebody gives you a pamphlet, you read what is on that, and then you ask, why is this organization there? What do they do? Is it a like-minded organization? Why do people try to convert others? You understand? They give you pamphlets to read. Why is it people say, my religion is the best, without understanding what their religion is? Most people do not know what their religion is. And they start saying it's the best. Again, it's about my father was so I am the best. Others are no good. So we need to ask these questions, and that comes through study. And study sometimes Study is made on books which have inspired great people. Study is made on books which are on deep subjects. You study books which in a very simple way give you the truth. Sometimes there are works of art or stories, autobiographies, very inspiring. So it's very important for us to study the lives of great people in addition to philosophy. Very important.
Who are philanthropists, and what is the difference between a theosophist and a philanthropist?
Actually, there is no difference. A theosophist is a philanthropist. If you don't love other human beings, if you are not willing to be compassionate to all sentient beings, that means everything has life, incidentally. According to theosophists, even minerals have a certain life in them. may not be as active as you see it in the case of human beings. Animals, birds, trees, everything has life. A philanthropist reaches out to other human beings. He wants to do some work for them which will benefit other human beings. Every day he is looking for opportunities. See, when you are looking for a job, you will go through that column which says appointments in the newspaper. And there are some people who constantly see who's dying, so they'll see the obituary column every day to check who's dying. Particularly, there are people who are getting old and they'd like to see if their friends are going. And then there are others who see engagements column, which are the music programs today. And they've just come into the city and they want to know what is happening. So each person looks for such a thing. A philanthropist, he looks for opportunities in his mind to help people. His t-shirt message is, "May I help you?" And that is a theosophist. And you might think it's only social work. It's important to give food, clothing and shelter to people. Very important. But then there are also, without giving up that, you see, it's like saying that up to school I studied history and geography, but now I only do engineering, so I should forget history and geography. No. You have to continue to give food, clothing and shelter as and when you see people who need that, not rich people. Then you have to look at the moral and spiritual sufferings of the world. People are suffering. Don't think that all rich people, all people who are in good jobs are very happy, or that they have decided this is the end. No, it's a new beginning. If you get a new job tomorrow, you will have other needs, and many of those needs are moral and spiritual needs. The duties you owe to your parents, to your grandparents, to people who are in jail. You understand? A philanthropist thinks you search for opportunities to help them. A theosophist also does that. There is somebody who says that I am very upset with life. I don't believe in God because I lost my father. I wanted my father to live and God didn't make it happen. Then you start talking to that person, saying that, listen, talk to him about how in every family there is death. This is what the Buddha taught us. In every family there is a mishap. In every family there are unfortunate things. It is because we are also learning and we are clearing. Then we go to the subject of karma. Then we go to other subjects. Then we bring people into a study of this and to an understanding. Recently there was a very curious experience we had. We were traveling on a flight to Delhi because my wife Sunita's mother passed away. And Sunita looked visibly upset while the meal was being served. So the air hostess asked the question. Now she's a theosophist, a philanthropist, this girl. What happened, madam? And you know, you have your names. It says doctor. So why is a doctor looking so upset? So this air hostess in the business class cabin, she came to us and she said, and she asked me, madam is very upset. What is the reason? She also asked Sunita. And we told her that there was a terrible accident and this happened. She said, madam, you are lucky that you lived with your mother for more than 50 years. She said that she lost her father when she was 5 years old and she's not even 30. And then she didn't stop with that. She said, my mother has cancer. So every morning I see her before I board the flight and she's keeping a smiling face, serving. And she says, if I don't earn, nobody can pay for my mother, her treatment. Now this was a lesson. It was a harsh lesson coming from a younger person, but yet it was something that Sunita learned and I learned, that our grief is there, but there are people with greater grief. So a philanthropist, to explain it in practical terms, is one who's able to reach out and help. Why should an air hostess worry? She has to just give that smile and go. But that girl was at that moment very concerned that somebody was feeling very. So you look for opportunities. Somebody is having problems with study. Somebody is having relationship problems. Somebody is having financial problems. Somebody is having a problem on a moral issue, on a spiritual matter. That's where the theosophist becomes an active force. He goes and he says, and doesn't say, look, I know it all. I'm a theosophist. You listen to me. I'll tell you what you should do. You should sit with that person, listen to that person. The best part of the theosophical teaching is not through words, but through silence. That's why Madame Blavatsky said the voice of the silence. That was her. First listen, listen and listen. And then at some point that person would have said everything that he or she wanted to, and then they will ask you, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why should my father die? I'm young and he was not very old. Why should he die? And then slowly, 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 without offending that person. And don't even in your body language look like you are giving a sermon to that person. You understand? Very important. Talk to them. Tell them that, listen, happens. Try to relate another story where it has happened. That's how you begin. Then the next step is, you say, you know, even in my own family, these things have happened. My uncle, auntie, grandfather, somebody had a problem. Then you say, you know, one of the things which I have realized is that these things happen because of maybe our own deeds in past lives or the way we treat others, that this happens to us. And I think you're a good person, and maybe now your suffering is over. This part of the suffering is over. So look forward and also try to understand that you have other relatives at home, not only your father. You understand? They're also depressed. You have to be strong. So this becomes very important. A philanthropist will do all these things. You understand? I've said it through so many examples. Somebody is really searching for truth. He has all the money in the world. My ancestors were extremely wealthy people, but they were not satisfied. They thought conversion was the only thing. But then, at that time, the theosophical leaders came there, H.P. Blavatsky and H.S. Alcott, and it changed our life till this day. It has nothing to do with just membership. It is a way of life. It is the right way of living. Yes?
So, how do you think we, as youngsters, could spread theosophy in this modern day?
You see, there is a term in theosophical literature which says popularize a knowledge of theosophy. Today, media popularizes everybody. Until yesterday, so-and-so was nobody. Today, she became Miss India, and everybody knows her. Until yesterday, somebody didn't know that there was the small pickpocket. But today, he did a big, he robbed something big. And so he became famous. So there are bad things and good things which get known. Similarly, there are many schools of thought like Ayurveda, like there are herbal cures, yoga. Maybe 100 years ago, somebody in the Western countries did not know about this. Today there is a lot of research and it has been made popular. Yoga is popular. It gets into the dictionary of the English language. You understand? Then there are people who come from those countries into ours. And they tell us this is how an automobile is to be made. The automobile becomes popular. Everybody says instead of going in a bullock cart, let us use an automobile. How is it? It's popular. But popular doesn't mean conversion. I can't convert you into a user of a car. You understand? I'm using a non-religious example. But I'm making the car popular so that you say, hey, I think I feel like driving that thing. It looks very nice. Hmm? Not out of the greed, not because his car is bigger than mine, I want that car. Just as a lover of cars, as a lover of bikes, as a lover of something else, painting, new methods. Somebody brings the concept of programming. You say, oh, that's an easy way for me to reach out. So programming and the use of the internet becomes popular. So in the same sense, how can you make it popular? See, theosophy is something which could appeal to you. So the way of making it popular is not by conversion, not by forcing it. I have the right way. Yes, we have the right way, there's no doubt about it, because we are universal. But present it. Make it available. Welcome people. Talk to them without inhibition. Talk to them when you realize they are open and willing to listen to you, not when they are not. You understand all these things? Welcome. And for that you have to study. He asked the question about studying. Always do this exercise. You're waiting to catch a plane. Very often this happens. And you are making conversation with somebody in the transit lounge in the airport. And you're going towards the plane. He says, where are you going? Oh, I'm going for the International Convention of the Theosophical Society. Oh, what is this organization? What is theosophy? Once you reach the plane, he's somewhere, you're somewhere. But can you tell him in that 2 to 3 minutes what is theosophy and the Theosophical Society, enough to make him ask you, hey, may I have your contact number or email ID? I'd like to know more about this and then you send him something and it changes his life or her life. When I say he, I mean she as well. I mean, it should not be that women cannot do this or something like that. But it is very important. And women are extremely good at understanding many of these things because they are subtle. They are used to many things in life which are subtle. So many of our theosophical leaders have been women. Our principal founder, H.P. Blavatsky, wore a woman's body. And that's again something very interesting. Our attachment to these bodies, it's another thing which we should, when we popularize theosophy, we only see limitations. This world which we see, even the bandwidth of our seeing and hearing is so limited. Okay, the power latent in you is to see the entire bandwidth. The soul of man is immortal, or the soul of a human is immortal, and there is no limit for its growth and splendor. So if such is the case, then people will look at theosophy with sympathy, and you make it known that, yes, I do not believe in these systems which divide people by language, caste, religion. I'll reach out. I'll eat with anybody. You understand my thing? I will fraternize, be friends with anybody. I will invite them home. I'll serve them food. I don't think that they are, very dirty, very poor. I'd like to sit with them. I'd like to take a walk with a poor urchin boy to find out why is he alone here? Where are his parents? Why is he begging? Interview him and see in that conversation that you can perhaps help him. That is theosophy. You understand? And then he says, oh, my father is here, my mother is there, you see. And then suddenly you say, my God, I'm so fortunate. I have a motorbike or a car to get back home, and I have an air-conditioned room. This boy sleeps on the pavement at the end of my conversation. So you really feel for him. Then you perhaps bring some food for him. You try to put him in a school where he can study, and maybe one day he becomes an important person, and he in turn says, yes, and at any time when doing this, don't tell him, oh, now you are 12 years old. Here is Theosophical Society, I am the one who helped you, so become a member. No, it doesn't work that way. That is the difference between missionaries from various religions and theosophists. They also are people who speak the word of God. We also speak of the divine within us. But we don't seek to convert people, we only seek to popularize. Please see the difference. If people spoke of their spiritual teachers just like that, then it will be so beautiful. You don't have to label yourself that I am different from you and you convert to what I am. There's a beautiful book which says, it's a book called Please Understand Me or something like that by two psychologists. It says, I'm not asking you to do anything, not even perhaps to understand me, but don't try to make me a copy of yourself. Theosophy does not encourage that. You need to popularize. Show how each unique person, I can't say, oh, you're an engineer, so you don't understand what management is. You know, I'm giving you a day-to-day. Oh, you're a manager, how do you know technical details? No, no. Include people. Do you understand? So this is how we popularize Theosophy, the concepts in Theosophy, the philosophical background of various popular beliefs. What are superstitions? What are real truths? These are the things we need to study. Yeah.
There are many people from different economic backgrounds and groups. They were willing to work with the Theosophical Society. How do we face this challenge with the present day standard of living?
Very interesting. Nitya, it is true. It works. It worked on my mind, and it's worked on the minds of many people, including my children. We want to give more time to the Theosophical Society as volunteers, as people working at the headquarters estate or in some center across the world. Maybe I will lose out on something in the material world to, the same question which was asked. I think we should, in the Theosophical Society, I think it's important for us in all the centers to see that we have young people coming and trying to find out how we can have a system, a financial system and an administrative system to accommodate their needs, not their greed. Now if a young person says, I would like to have a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW, but I'd like to volunteer for the Theosophical Society, it's a bit difficult, very difficult. I cannot give you all that. You should be working in the investment banking profession and you will make a lot of money, and maybe one day you will come to the Theosophical Society, make a donation. That's your way of life. But there's somebody else who says, I'm very interested in the maintenance of the estate. I'm a good designer of books for the Theosophical Publishing House. There's somebody else who says that the gardens are so beautiful, I have a botanical and a horticultural background. Can you take care of us? I think in future, the Theosophical Society, as has been in the case in the past as well, should encourage those people to come, take care of their needs, not their greed. We are not talking about luxury. It's a life, yes, there is a certain element of renunciation, but not with regret. The minute somebody regrets, oh, I have come to the Theosophical Society, now I am not earning as much as my friend outside, I would tell that person, please go back. You be a member, go back and earn. But yes, we should have a system, Nitya, that enables young people without feeling, oh, I'm having to borrow money. No. We should, for our workers who are employees, for our volunteers who come and do volunteer work, for members who want to do part-time work, we may not be able to remunerate certain categories. We may not be able to give regular salaries, but we should look at the needs and aspirations of many people and see that they don't suffer. That's the responsibility. And the people who come without demands, and the people who administer ensure that they should not be in want and make them demand. So you see, it's a dual thing. We should be aware, if we are administrators, to understand the needs and aspirations of volunteers and workers and not make them ask for it. Yes, Aditi?
we often regularly meet at a place which is called the Flaming Center, as we call it. And Adyar has always attracted a lot of members, a lot of visitors, and many people from different parts of the world. And I consider it a bonus and it's an advantage, and we are lucky to have such a beautiful estate in a city like Chennai, in a big metropolis. But what are your ideas for Adyar in the future? What do we see from it?
There are many thoughts that cross my mind. As you know, the family was involved in the purchase of the Adyar estate. So in a sense, it's a sentiment that has gone with that for many years. Not because it's the family, but the feeling. I have seen the trees in Adyar, the roads in Adyar, the buildings in Adyar. Some of us have, isn't it? And when you come there, you feel at home. You feel the peace. It is the international headquarters and will always be the international headquarters. No matter who becomes the president, it will always be the international headquarters. It is important for us to respect that. You know, there is an Eastern custom of removing your footwear when you go inside. I understand there were people once upon a time who actually, when they entered Adyar, they would remove their footwear. But this is still true of our main buildings like the headquarters and the library. We remove our footwear, the Blavatsky bungalow. Why? Because there is a certain magnetism. There are people who have visited it who are very great people. Some whom we know and can know, and some who are so great that perhaps we have not come face to face with them in our physical consciousness. But the blessing of all these great leaders and teachers and saints has always been there in this place. And just like a shrine, just like a place which is sacred, where people stay in silence, where good thoughts are encouraged, Adyar is important. So for this, even the physical Adyar has to be maintained. If the banyan tree is there, you should see that it is carefully kept, the great banyan tree. If the headquarters building is there, you should see it's maintained. If the roads lead from one place to another, from the Bhojanshala to the Leadbeater chambers or beyond, it's important to see that those roads are properly kept. If you open the tap, we should get clean water to drink and to bathe, to wash our hands. These are fundamentals. I don't think there is any question about it. If people come from outside, there should be pamphlets available to them. There should be an audiovisual presentation to show what is Theosophy and the Theosophical Society. You understand? There is already a place where they can drink some water if they are thirsty. So when they visit this place, one is it should give them peace. The second, it should excite their curiosity about what is Theosophy. And if possible, there should be volunteers who show them, who tell them what is this. If they are willing to listen. If they say, no, we just want to see on our own, please leave us in silence. No problem, don't pester them. We are not looking for tips. You understand? But Adyar has to welcome people from every part of the world, irrespective of the race, religion, color, language. They have to come and live there, work there, visit there. Very important.
In the contemporary world today, there's an increasing consensus on the idea that people want to bring religion, philosophy, and science together. And interestingly, it's also the second object of the Theosophical Society, a comparative study of religion, philosophy, and science. How do you think this can be done in a systematic manner? How do you think this can be taken up as serious study?
So the first object is very important, universal brotherhood. We cannot underestimate the importance of the other two objects. The second object of comparative religion, philosophy, and science, and the third objective of the powers latent in nature and man. Today, science is becoming a stronger ally of Theosophy. quantum physicists are speaking theosophical language. Science is establishing in its own way what the great saints of the past have said and what H.P. Blavatsky said in The Secret Doctrine. Right? So, there is the Theosophy Science Center which does this. To encourage the work of that center is very important. Then there are various other groups like the School of the Wisdom which meets every year. So to call and invite speakers and perhaps to have more such sessions during the year would encourage that kind of a study, for example. And in the recent past, we have also seen that we have invited more people from outside to come and attend our meetings and interactions by using the internet, that is emails or sites where you post it, the newspaper, notice boards, word of mouth, SMS, social media like Facebook. Use it to not only for its gossip value but for its constructive value. And then there are sites in social media where there are avenues in social media where you can talk about some interesting fact, the etymology of a particular term. Why is it common to all religions? A particular fable. Why is it has a background in all religions? You see the birth of Krishna and the birth of Christ. You see what Ananda did and then what Jesus did. You understand? You see the common CH, you can spell Krishna CHRISHNA. Krishna. Christ. Christ can also be, if you want to, spelled KRIST. There is no, because there are people who write Christensen. You understand? So, K or CH doesn't make a difference. But see, there's something in common. Aren't you curious to study it, to find out why it is similar? That is comparative study. Then what happens? Then you say, oh, whether he is a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Parsi, Sikh, Jew, he is my brother. She is my sister. You understand my point? That is important. So the second object in a way leads to the first object, but also expands our own intellectual understanding of many of these things. And today there are experiments bringing science and spirituality together. You understand? By great scientists. And we know of many. Today all that is important for theosophists to study, to research in, to popularize. Yeah. Yes, yes.
Thanks. I'm a finance professional and a young theosophist, and I just have a couple of questions. One is on membership. How do we increase that? And the second concern is on fundraising for some of our activities. How do you think we should address these two things?
Harish, it's very interesting that these are very practical problems that you have, challenges. They're not problems. Membership does go up and come down. It's not something that we should get terribly worked up about. But to be complacent about getting new members in of a high quality, there's nobody who's of a low quality. The quality is in terms of the interest of the person. There might be very good people outside who are not interested. I'm talking about people who are interested. How do we invite them? By popularizing theosophy. Somebody asked that question. You have to popularize and make it known among young urban professionals, among rural youth. We don't reach out. By having theosophical publications and internet sites in the vernacular, in different languages all over the world. You understand? In India alone, we have so many languages. Then I'm talking about languages like Chinese, like Spanish, French, German, Italian. You understand? Portuguese. These are all languages where we can, besides English. And then there are also languages like Icelandic, Finnish, Danish, Swedish. We should have very clear, detailed sites which give a lot of information. And these sections are doing an excellent job, let me tell you that. All over the world. In fact, even in Africa, you have different languages. So across the world, there should be a move. to spread theosophy through the net, through personal interaction. We should, you cannot solve all problems on emails, internets, and such other avenues. Those are all means to bring people together. You see, you can send an SMS, please come for this meeting. But I cannot say that we will have only that, unless you are in different cities. So therefore, we must all gather together. We must have meetings. This feeling of being together, to having lunch together after this, is very important for us to understand each other, and then perhaps even spend longer times interacting at meetings in informal groups, so that we get more people. That's how we should. We should get more people. We should at least be double the numbers that we are now in the near future. Then the question of funds. Let me tell you, there are some serious issues on this. Funds cannot be taken from organizations which are involved in the wrong means of earning them, either legally or environmentally or in terms of the way that they treat animals and human beings. If they are organizations which have been clearly known to do such things, or if there are fundamental religious groups, or if there are corrupt people who have been not branded is the wrong word, proven to have made their money the wrong way, we do not want that kind of tainted money. But there are many good people, many good foundations, many good corporate houses. Don't brand them as materialistic. They are doing their dharma. So if they are interested in donating, don't turn them away. But in the society, we do not like to give too much of importance to labels. I don't want to make much out of a donor and make him sit on a throne. He will be just like all of us. All of us are the same. It's like the round table. All of us are the same. He's a donor. It doesn't become important, and a non-donor doesn't become unimportant. Okay? So this is very important to raise funds. And also when you raise funds or when you partner with organizations, do not do it in a very pedestrian way. When I say pedestrian, vulgar way. Some loud, not very aesthetic music program can raise a lot of money. You know that. A lot of people like that kind of vibration, and they say, yes, yes. And you might raise a few crores, few millions. No, that doesn't kind of fit in. Or you can say that let us have a big, what do you call those things? Those charity dinners where we kill a whole lot of animals because people want to and have liquor. No, please. We would like to have food that is sattvic, food that is not cruel, and we don't want to have alcohol mixed up in our gatherings. Very important. I'm not belittling people whose diet is different or whose habits are different. I have nothing against them. But we cannot have that. And when they come here, many of them, they are welcome to, whether it's Adyar or another center. We have a certain way of working as an organization, not in our rules, but it's in our norms. Very important for us to have fundraising using the right means, and then the funds become karmically good. There are no good people and bad people, but good intentions, good means. Bad intentions, bad means. We are looking at the means which are good and the intentions which are good. And then, yes, we do need more members and more funds. I have absolutely no way of saying anything else. But it is a little bit of a difficult job, because sometimes you might have to politely refuse associating with an activity. You understand? It's not because you think it's a taboo. It's because you think that it's not the right way of living, and hence the right ends do not justify the wrong means. I hope I have answered your question. Yeah, Yogesh.
I think you've already addressed this to a certain degree. My question is about our international gatherings in the Theosophical Society and also our publications. These are for people from all over the world who will speak many different languages. So, how do we reach out to all of them?
You're right, in the sense that I have partly addressed that by talking about internet sites and even publications in different languages. I'd like to, there is already a non-English speaking fund, I think, for publications. For example, I was in Estonia and they are trying to do something for, I think, the secret doctrine or something like that. Very important for us to look at those languages. There's a Chinese website which has come up. Very good work. Simple presentations being available to people, which can be distributed to various people across the world. There are very good study groups which have worked in all the continents. For example, Singapore, Israel, England, in the United States, in India. There are, even in Australia and South America, in Africa, there are groups of people who have put together some very interesting programs. I think we should all, pool this knowledge, make a knowledge pool for theosophical education. By this education, I don't mean general education like the Olcott School being run. That's very important. The work of the Theosophical Order of Service, the work of the Olcott School, the work of the other schools which are run in places like Philippines, very, very important. But by this education, I mean education for, to understand theosophy through books in different languages, being available at different bookshops where people go, even railway bookshops, for example. They are places where, you have 2 days on a train. And if you have that book and you read it, it could change your life by the time you alight in a different place. And you had also asked about, what was the second part of Yogesh's question? Gathering, very, very important. See, very often we have only our gatherings in English. Of course, in India we have people who, there are groups which meet in the local languages. But most of our international gatherings are only in English. So I feel we should have certain common sessions in English because it's the most spoken of, spoken language. And it's also the language that is spoken largely by many theosophical members. But if we find that there's a large Italian group coming, it's a kind of cruelty to those people unless you have something in Italian for them. So if we find an international gathering where there are, say, 20 people from Korea, maybe 25 from Italy, about 100 people from Karnataka, you understand? Then you please have in Kannada, in Telugu, in Italian and in Korean, make efforts and get somebody from those groups who are well read to present a paper on the theme of the International Convention in that language, in those sessions. Of course, you and I don't understand Korean, so we don't need to go and sit there. But give them a comfortable place, a nice public address system, and an opportunity to interact with each other, and then they come back to this. This is one. The second is, sometimes people come and give talks, and people, some others wonder why they have been invited to speak. I'm being very frank about it. It may be important to call a number of people to speak, but it is also important that we invite papers from people across the world before our international gatherings. I'm not talking only about the International Convention. There could be the World Congress, many other things. Even there are gatherings in different continents. Each federation has a gathering. So even at these, if there are people who give ideas saying that I have prepared something like this, when you ask them to send it before, he may be unknown, he may not be a general secretary, He may not be an international speaker. He may not be an international officer. It doesn't matter. And then if it is going to be a paper alone and not to be presented, we have what are called poster sessions. I don't know whether you are aware that in international conferences you have poster sessions. Your presentation is displayed as a poster around, just like a painting, and people come to that venue and they read, and a copy of that is given to them if they are interested. See, then there are the people who say, I will send you a small video clipping and I would like to make a presentation, and my paper is also here, and you find he's a good communicator, or his section says he's a good speaker, then you provide a slot for him to speak, right? And if he is a really good speaker and an expert on a subject, I would say even arrange a translator for a concurrent session for each language as I mentioned. Other than that, for a general session, suppose there is a man who speaks excellent Spanish. Let him speak in Spanish, let there be a translator. Don't force him to speak English. It's not fair. So this is something which I feel is very important for our gatherings, so that they become research seminars. And there are also public figures who come and speak, like the Besant lecture. Very interesting, very good. And they come, we learn from people from there. Many people from outside learn from our interactions, so that every time we have a gathering for a week or 10 days, people go away feeling enthused, with a lot of energy, and with the feeling that I want to come back again. Yes.
So, being from a family, oldest family in the Theosophical Society, personally, how big an impact has it made in your life? Like childhood, of course, it's default. Your parents are Theosophists. One would go with them for the round table ceremony, activities, meeting the members or attending talks. But as a grown-up, one is independent in college and during education, and then start of your career. How big an impact has Theosophy made for you?
Yeah, huge impact. A huge impact in the sense that if you come across any of my friends from school until now, corporate friends, they would know that I belong to the Theosophical Society and I am interested in Theosophy. When I go back, I often wonder where it came from. Was it the family? Was it the books available? Or was it the Adyar atmosphere? Or was it the round table and the youth lodge gatherings? I was the president of the youth lodge, then the Adyar lodge, then the Madras Federation. I've been on the Indian Section Council. I've been with the TOS. Were it those projects? Yes. It's difficult for me to say it's only this. I think it's because I was open to getting involved with many of these, some of the ceremonial orders, some of the schools for a school for discipleship. All these things have inspired me, and there has been a certain atmosphere. When we say Theosophy, I get tuned into that. It's like connecting me to some infinite source of power. And then I can go on. And I feel I can go on the rest. This has got nothing to do with my contesting for in the presidential election. Please don't get me wrong on that. It's because I have always felt that I should balance my other life with this. And now, and as we are running out of time, I would like to also conclude with this. Very strangely, and my family knows this, for reasons unknown to me, I have slowly phased out my involvement for a few years now from my so-called external professional work. Wearing my tie and jacket and suit and going out to work and traveling and, being with clients. I've reduced that. The next generation is slowly taking over those activities.
But being in management,
yeah.
this would also aid and helped also, right, in your career?
Absolutely. I think you've asked a very relevant, raised a relevant point, because there is administration, and I know that there will be administration. After all our presidents were great philosophers from the first to the seventh, and the leaders were great, but they also had administrative responsibilities. They had day-to-day work to do. They had the laws of the land to follow. They had court cases to complete. They had funds to raise. They had departments to administer. Yes, very much. And I've been involved and trained professionally in all this. So you're right. And I chose human resource management and training and organization development, and even in some cases rather difficult industrial relations, because maybe I thought sometime it will be useful to the Theosophical Society or any other organization. I have been involved with other groups advising them. For example, entrepreneurship development organizations, organizations which are into proper daily professional social work, philanthropic organizations. And it gives me a lot of pleasure to build those organizations, to make plans for them, to tell them how to employ people, how to raise funds, how to train people. You understand? Many, many, many of those. I don't want to list all of those. And I have gone as a speaker to all these. All this has actually brought me back home, more home, the TS, the Theosophical Society. So,
yeah, I think the well, as personally as a musician,
yes.
I'm in Madras studying South Indian musician, and the history has been such as very narrow-minded, and there hasn't been any broad thinking. But I think I've been fortunate personally. One, yes, the background of Theosophy, but in terms of music, as a career, my institution is a world music research and training center. Now, world music is exactly this universal brotherhood. Music is all the same.
Yeah.
One cannot say my system is the best and this system is inferior or superior in music. All the musics of the world, the teaching of my professor has been, he's an ethnomusicologist. So an ethnomusicologist is like a theosophist.
Exactly.
Thinking that way in music. And I think that has been an extra bonus for a person like me taking music. And I'm looking forward to relating this even more. Music, ethnomusicology, world music, and theosophy.
Very true.
Like you have related to management and administration and human resources.
Music is far more beautiful than words. Just imagine if you listen to just a composition of Kabir or Rahim. The other day we were listening to it in Delhi at a meeting following my mother-in-law's passing. So beautiful. There were Sai bhajans, there was Kabir bhajans, there was Vaishnava Janato, there was Raghupati Raghav Rajaram. You know, the music teaches you in 3 lines, he teaches you what a whole lecture teaches. Ishwar Allah Tero Naam. He just sings it and then you understand. He says, Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. Jo sukh mein sumiran kare to dukh kaye hoi. Which is very important. It says that if you meditate on the divine when you are happy, then why would misery come to you? You understand? So, it doesn't mean you are escaping karma, but all these things, every profession, a scientist, we know scientists, we know eminent scientists who are involved in the TS work here, they are trying to bring that together. It's an avenue. Music is an avenue. Science is an avenue. You understand? Sociology is an avenue. Human resource management is an avenue. Art is an avenue. And all of those lead to, because you need everybody. You need architects, you need structural engineers, you need electricians, plumbers to put a building together. So if you are building an edifice for humanity, you need people from all walks of life to work together, to contribute, to be brothers and sisters. Thank you all. I think it has been a wonderful morning for me. And thank you for this curiosity to ask what would happen It's got nothing to do with who, but what ideas rule the world, not personalities. Thank you.
Thank you.